Welcome to Film Talk, and this is the centenary year of Satyajit Ray, the master filmmaker from India, who got India into the world map with Padher Panchali, the film in 1955-56. So we are celebrating the centenary year of Ray, and lot of articles, lot of work is done around Ray, the person, the filmmaker, the films, and all. And I have with me my old colleague and friend, Professor Asoke Bhattacharya, who's retired professor from Jadavapur and now working with the Bangladesh government. And he has written a very, very detailed article on Ray, which many people outside Bengal may not know so much of details about how Ray went about making the Apu Trilogy. The article is named Master Extraordinary Humanism in the Cinematic Creations of Satyajit Ray, a sojourn with specific reference to Apu Trilogy. Welcome, Ashokda, and let me first congratulate you for your extraordinary detailing of this whole making of this master himself, because the Apu Trilogy makes Ray the filmmaker of global importance. And let's start with the details in your article. You talked about his years in DJ Kamer and how DK Gupta, Dilip Gupta, and he went about, identifying Padher Panchali and making it a abridged version with sketches and all of it. There's a very interesting narrative which you did. How did you come about it, or came to know? Where did you source it? And it is. I don't read it much about this detail about how actually Ray found Padher Panchali. We all thought it is the novel which attracted him, but as a reader, he should have got into it. But it is his own work in his first job of an advertising agency which put him onto this great novel and the great film. So how did that happen, and how did he go about it? Can you just describe that portion?
Yeah, the thing is that Satyajit Ray never wanted to be a filmmaker. He was a film buff. He used to look at films. He used to analyze films, and sometimes he used to even make film scripts. But he never thought of making films. And what happened? This I think the influence of Renoir was what triggered this interest in Ray to make a film. So what happened? He was at that point of time working at DJ Kamer as an illustrator in the advertising department, and he was definitely a very good illustrator. But at that point of time, Dilip Gupta, who was one of the assistant managers and almost, the chief of the work that Ray and others were doing in that advertising firm, he had a side business. The business was, publication business, in which he wanted to bring out in good format, very good cover, very good binding, very good printing, with some illustrations, some of the good books, that was particularly Bengali books, that he thought would have got a market. Say he came out with various poetry books. Poetry had no market at all at that point of time. So one day he came out to him, to Satyajit Ray, and told him that this is a book, Vibhuti Bhushan's Pather Panchali, and he made, not he, somebody else, one Sajanikanta Das, made an abridged version of that called Am Atir Vepu. That is, the name is also there in the Pather Panchali of Vibhuti Bhushan. and he thought that this should be for the, for the boys and girls, of adolescent age, um, for rapid reader and all that. And he gave him the book, and he was surprised that Satyajit had never heard of Vibhuti much, had not read him, and he was not even well read in Bengali literature. But of course, he was at Tagore's Shantiniketan, he was a good artist. But at the same time, it was quite, a shock for Dilip Gupta that his good artist did not have much inroad in Bengali literature. So he gave him not only this book, but also the original. It's not the abridged version, but the original one. You read these books and you made these sketches, and whatever has to be done with this book when it is getting published. So that time he went through that abridged version, and because he was doing film scripts and all that, he found the abridged version quite okay. And he found that, if I could make a film like that. And during this period, Renoir was there, and he met Renoir in Great Eastern Hotel. And Renoir was then taking many of the Calcutta intellectuals, for the recce, for various sites
Yeah.
where the river would be, the film River would be met.
Yeah, no.
So,
Before we get into Renoir,
yeah,
let's just talk about the
DJ
abridged
Gupta.
version and the
Okay.
illustrations. Have you seen it,
Yeah.
and how is it even today?
Yeah. Those illustrations you will find in Pathir Pachali illustrations also, that is available. But personally, I have not seen Amati Vepu. That is not ever available. That's not available anymore. But he did those things, those illustrations. And it is much later, of course, he did it when he came from, I think, England. So before that, he was only, he was thinking, and why Renoir, and even before that, Dilip Gupta himself perhaps thought of making a film on Pathir Pachali. He told Ray that it could be, a good film could be made out of, Pathir Pachali.
Okay.
That is Amati Vepu. This is the abridged edition in which, I have, make it much shorter, shorn it of many of the characters, made it, in the core characters. He has placed, put those characters inside. So
Yeah.
that way, Dilip Gupta himself was, quite enthusiastic about making a film, and
Okay.
he was also instigating Ray that you are in the film line nowadays. You are making script and all that. So much of interested in films. So why don't you can make a try to make a film out of this abridged version.
Okay.
So that triggered the interest in him that yes, I could also think of doing it,
Okay.
because he has already, he said that he is not that much interested at that point of time to make films. He would
Okay.
write on films, write scripts, criticize, the films that were being made, you know, like a film consciousness he would generate in
Yeah.
the Bengali intelligence. Yeah.
Yeah, he was already into Calcutta Film Society and its meanings and
Of
all.
course.
Right?
Yeah. Already.
So that way, Renoir's arrival in Calcutta, his shooting of the film River,
Right.
changed Ray's outlook from
Yeah.
appreciation or film critic or film society man to being a filmmaker. He got the confidence that he can be a filmmaker, is it not? So
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, you went
And
about describing Renoir's interactions, with Calcuttans and people
Yeah.
around Calcutta for the film.
Yeah.
So how was that? Will you just recount it?
Yeah. Actually, I think that Renoir is a great mentor for the new way of filmmaking in Bengal, because those people who were there with Renoir for sight, the Reke and all that, Ritik Ghatak was there,
Okay.
Satyajit Ray was there, Harishadan Dasgupta, He's
Okay.
a very good, documentary filmmaker. He was there,
Yeah.
and also Shubhrata Mitra was there. So many people were there. In fact, all the film buffs of Calcutta who were intellectuals, not who were making films at that point of time. They were the new thinkers
Yes.
on film
Yeah.
who did not want to do films like those were being made in Bengali studios.
Okay.
These people, Renua got, and also Kamal Kumar Majumdar, one of the great intellectuals and a novelist and short story writer. All these people gathered around him, and
Hmm.
I believe that Renua must have been a very, amiable person, a person who was always, he was quite senior to them, and he
Okay.
was trying to teach them, what should be a good film, what is a good film,
Okay.
how to make a good film, how to go and find out, the essence of a place,
Okay.
because he was looking at the ponds, he was looking at the women, taking water from the wells.
Okay.
He was looking at, the oxen and the cows in the field, and he was teaching them how these things, when you are making film, these things can be very creatively utilized, because the commercial filmmakers never do that.
Okay.
Their interest is different. But
Yeah,
this
that
was
comes to the next question. Related question
yeah,
is that Ray
right, right,
went to Europe. I think
right.
after that, or which period, I can't relate it.
Yeah, after that, after
After
he
that, probably.
was with Renoir,
Yeah.
actually Ritik Ghatak and others, many, particularly Subhata Mitra, Harisadan Dasgupta, they used to go with Renoir every day,
Okay.
because some of them were even employed by him.
Okay.
But Satyajit Ray, he was already in his job. He was
Okay.
doing his work. So
Yeah.
he could not get, free time. So
Okay.
only on Sunday and maybe some of the Saturdays, he used to find time to accompany him. But it was why, for a long period of time, he used to accompany them, the whole day. And so
Yeah.
many discussions used to come about.
Yeah.
And, Renoir used to teach them.
Yeah.
And
But in the history, I think right people who found Ray as different was that his influence of neorealistic films, especially the Bicycle Thieves,
yeah,
Italian neorealistic films,
yeah.
which he saw in England
In England, after that,
after that.
yeah,
So,
because
so,
in
so, so my question is, it was the lessons from Renoir
mm,
plus what he saw in the post-war films in Europe
right,
molded his vision, of
yeah,
realism and films,
right,
and it was a product of the times kind of thing.
right. Actually, what happened when he went to England, and he has written that he has seen 99 films over a period of 5 months or 6 months. In fact, it should be more than 99. 99, he said, but Vijay Rai, his wife, said it was more than 99. But
Okay.
99 was, listed.
Yeah.
And when he saw Bicycle Thief, he was absolutely mesmerized, because here was a filmmaker, shooting in the shooting outside, not in the studio, with very low cost camera, with film which had a lot of grains, which were not up to the mark at that point of time.
Okay.
But he, Bicycle Thief, he understood from it that even if you do not have the best of, technology, you can make a good film if, real people are there.
Okay.
And also the money needed is less, because you are not utilizing stars, you are utilizing, people, who are really dedicated to film, who are really, good natured people, not making money, not after making money.
Yeah.
So that way it was a revelation to him, particularly Bicycle Thief and other near realistic films that he saw, Fellini and so many others,
That also takes us to the question about Vibhuti Bhushan's novel. I'm told it is a
Yeah,
path-breaking novel in
yeah,
Bangla. And
Right.
and DK and Dilip Ghosh introduces him to that
Yeah.
spot of work, and as well as recommends to him, it will make a very good film. So
Right.
how important was finding Padat Panchali and Vibhuti Bhushan, as a first film?
Yeah. Actually, he wanted to make other films also before Pathir Pachali. He wanted to make Ghare Baire of Rabindranath Tagore, uh, and then other films also. But these did not materialize. At that point of time, he tried his level best, but did not materialize. But with after visiting England, after seeing these realistic films, he came to understand that it is possible for him, to make a low budget film with Pathir Pachali. And then Pathir Pachali was in his mind, and the story was also very down to earth about a village, and villages at Calcutta was not that extended at that point of time. So he thought that he could go to a nearby village and get it. Shooting could be done with low cost. I would say with people who would not charge much,
Yeah,
one or two stars, of course, but many of them could be from the village itself. So
yeah,
all these things, made him, and also the teaching that he got from Renoir and from Bicycle Thief, that low cost film may be a good film.
yeah,
Mm. So he was quite energized,
yeah.
and with his own money, he did not get a single funding from any of the producers.
Yes.
He went from door to door, but he did not get a single farthing. Then from insurance, he had an insurance policy.
Okay.
He From that policy he got some money, and he took loans from his friends and relatives. So out of that, almost 17,000 rupees he collected for a few weeks, shooting,
Okay.
and then he started. Yeah,
Okay. But you also mentioned the story of how the film making, which was stuck for some time with Padai Panchali, since the finances were not forthcoming. How they happen to get busy Roy, Chief Minister busy, Roy's
yeah,
attention
yeah.
on this thing.
It's almost a
That is a very interesting incident, which
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's a coincidence, absolute coincidence. What happened after he had invested 17,000 rupees, and then what happened? Ray himself got hold of another producer called Rana Datta something. I've written it. So this Rana was there. He promised to invest another 40,000 rupees. And if, he had already invested his money in some other films, he said if those films run well and he had some profit, then that he would again invest
Okay.
here. So, but what happened, this money was given, and so many, the set was developed in the village, and so many things were done. But then his films flopped. Whatever he had invested, that flopped. Then what happened? They had no other source. And then Ray went from, in fact, he had edited all the things that he had already done.
Mhm.
So he went from door to door of various producers, but somehow money was not forthcoming. And then Ray says that is Anil Chaudhary, who was his production manager, he just disappeared. Previously he was coming every day, but as he saw that the money was not coming, so this man disappeared,
Okay.
and he came after almost 8 months. So he came after 8 months, and he said that, and he had a friend who was a constable who was in the security department of the Chief Minister B.C. Roy.
Okay.
I don't- Okay, so this man, he was always finding out, how he could get money. So he talked to this friend who was also a literate, a matriculate.
Okay.
So, because at that point of time, constables uh, would not, the recruitment of constables would be, those who were not even matriculate,
Okay.
just, 4, 5, 6 pass.
So,
So this
so
man was a bit,
in short, this is Mr. Anil Chowdhury who found out the source to the CM, is it not?
yes, yes. He found that Uday Shankar had gone and got some money, 40,000, 30,000 from VC Roy. So why don't you go? He went to, after 8 months, he went to Ray's house, and already, it was the family, it was being discussed, so much of money has been, and his mother was there. She also heard it, that if VC Roy could be approached, he, and then VC Roy was a family friend,
Okay.
indirectly a family friend. So then she went to one, this is Bela, and she was quite influential. So VC Roy was concerned, and then VC Roy was convinced that this money could be given because they were all Brahmo. Like, when a Malayali goes to a Malayali, sometimes it clicks, or a Bengali goes to a Bengali, it
Sure.
clicks. It's the same thing
The
within the
Brahmo.
small community. The it is Brahmo community.
Okay.
So Visira was a Brahmo, and he was also Brahmo. So it clicked, and he got the money. Yeah.
So it works sometimes, religion and a lot of things,
Yeah,
ethnicity.
exactly. So many things, one does not know,
Yeah.
which clicks,
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that I'm told by many, including Samigda, that Adaya Panchali, when it was released, it really got the attention of the people more than the media and all. The people, the three theaters in Calcutta was, it ran for 1 month. And by the third week, people began to flock the theaters and talk about it. It became a talk of the coffee house, and the whole, the whole situation changed.
Absolutely.
So that is an interesting, response from the people. I think it is not the awards or anything which propelled Ray into what he is. It is the response of the people, is it
Yeah.
not?
No, actually, there is, you know, there is some further information. In fact, that I have tried to give in this article, that one Pankaj Datta, in fact, he says that, during the first 1 or 2 weeks, it was getting some response, of course. The intellectuals were, very much in appreciation, but it was not making that, the halls were not, coming out, with crowds like that, with full people, going over there.
Not houseful.
And full house. It was not going in the very beginning.
Yeah.
But what happened? One Pankaj Datta, he wrote an review. He wrote a review in Desh. Desh is the literary magazine at that point of time in Calcutta or in Bengal. He wrote that this is a world-class film, and now we have a world-class film to show the world that, we can do it, India can do it. So it was a superlative sort of appreciation which came out in Desh, and then it, of course, people had the imagination. But then he says, I do not know because we were not born at that point of time.
Yeah.
Well, even if we are born, we are not, we cannot assess at this point of time. He says, I have quoted from his article, that then his article became sort of eye opener, and people began to throng the halls, and it was for 6 weeks, and then again in other circuit went on for another 4 or 5 weeks. So it was going on and on. So
Yeah.
that was, of course, I must say that it's not that because of the review people came, but I think, it might have some kind of an effect. But the people were also conscious that such a good film has been made in India.
Okay. Okay. In fact, in my interview with Samigda on this,
Mhm.
which was published in Madhubhumi, he said
Right.
that people suddenly realized that, they were also stuck by the harsh reality as shown in the film, because though the Calcuttans were not exposed to the harsh realities of the and the poverty of the villages,
Right.
also the
Right.
urban,
Yeah.
urban people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it was also Renaissance, post-independent Renaissance time, because there was a large group of young writers, Sunil Gangavathaya, Shankar, all of them were, that group was coming up. So
Right.
that could also be, it was also kind of
Yeah.
new wave in the, cultural field of
Yeah. Yeah.
Bengal,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in the process,
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah. Yeah.
film, of India.
I
And
think you're
what about the public receptions, which is a very interesting point, which
yeah.
Samita told me.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, you have very rightly said that the field was there, because the IPTA was formed in 1936 or something like that, and then there was a lot of there was culture, revival of culture, indigenous culture. So people were very much appreciative of culture. So at that point of time, this film was another, I should say, another inroad
Yeah.
in the whole cultural scenario. People thought that, and already people had been aroused through the Shankar and many others,
Yeah.
So this was kind of the same arousal came out of this film.
Hmm.
So, and then what happened, I have, in fact, I could not give all those things. Purnendu Patri, he became a filmmaker also.
Yeah.
So later on, he made 2 or 3 films, and he was quite a good intellectual. He was an illustrator, also, cover designer, also poet. So he says that he was mesmerized seeing this film, and then in the coffee house he met his friends, uh, and then together they thought that this was a great film, and then they went to the vice chancellor of Calcutta University and asked for the Senate Hall. Is a within the Calcutta University is the Calcutta University Hall. That was a very big hall.
Yeah.
So he said they went to the vice chancellor and convinced him that this hall should be, given to them for this civic reception of the director Satyajit Ray. So that way, you know, and that was not the only one. This was, of course, the very big one, where the whole crew of all the people who acted, who were technicians, they
Yes.
were invited and they were felicitated. But then again, this reception was being repeated in various other venues all over Calcutta.
Okay.
So that became a sort of
So before the national and international attention came and appreciation came, Ray had the good fortune of his own people recognizing the film
yes,
and
yeah, yeah,
honoring him.
yeah. I think so. He was very fortunate about that.
Yes,
Yeah,
because many of the
absolutely.
filmmakers, after Ray,
Yeah,
it was the other way around. They got the award,
exactly.
and people began to look up.
Yeah, exactly.
Take the example of Adur. The film was
Exactly.
released. It hardly ran for 1 week. Then, after the film got the award, national awards, it's run for 4 weeks.
I see.
And they could get the money back and repay Film
Yeah,
Finance Corporation. So that is in many places that happened. But
yeah,
Ray was fortunate in the sense that it was the right time and things happened.
right. I think he was very fortunate with Prof Asoke.
Yes, yes.
That he was not that fortunate with Aparajito. But Apu Shankar gave him a good, had
Return.
a good run,
Yeah.
but not Aparajito, the
Rajito.
second film,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So second film, you have this mixed response. Like, one can see the emergence of a maestro there. But,
yeah,
I'm told Chidananda Das Gupta, his best friend, and from the CFS, was not very appreciative about it. And, they differed, and that even affected their friendship to an
Yeah.
extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
somebody like Adur Gopalakrishnan thinks that that is his best film because he says that, look, I could identify with that film a lot. And he said, recently in Delhi, that when he told Ray, Ray looked at him and said, I feel the film should have been edited better. That's the exact comment which Ray told Adur.
Yeah.
So, it in a way, as you rightly said, that Abrajita was not that well received. It could be the reason. It could be the story because, as you described, the son is almost abandoning the mother, and going
Yeah.
off to the
Yeah.
from village to the city.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the reason? Which is, the socially it is not acceptable then.
I think this is Satyajit Ray himself. He had diagnosed. That people could not take it. That the son, the mother had worked so hard for the son, but then when the son was adolescent and all that, going to college in Calcutta, not very much interested to get back, to the village. So that way, maybe that, but this is nothing. I think Ray had nothing to do with this. This was a story.
Okay.
The story was like this.
Okay.
Even Vibhuti Bhushan portrayed, Apu like that.
Mm-hmm.
That of course, he had both Ray and Vibhuti Bhushan both wanted to show that Apu cannot now go back, to that village. He has to see the world. The whole outside world is opening up. It was 1950s. India was opening up. And
Yes.
Apu, as a protagonist, he was also opening up.
Yes.
In the wide open world, he
Yes.
had to explore. So I think, yeah, it has been. Ray was a bit, unfortunate that Vibhuti Bhushan's story was also like that,
Okay.
and that way it went a little bit against him. But at the same time, I should also say that with what Adu said, even Pradeep Sada the other day told me,
Yeah.
our president of the Calcutta Film Society, that this is the best film of
Yes.
Ray.
Yes.
He was telling me.
Yeah,
So
as a human document, I'll say it's very touching. The way the mother and son relationship, their their the tragedies which occur in their life, all of it. And you also described how Aparajita got that Venice award. That is
yes,
very interesting.
yeah.
And,
Actually, he was very frustrated when in Calcutta, after 1 week or 2 weeks, it was not getting good, viewership. And then he got this sort of invitation in Venice, and over there, even he had Italian subtitling made by one of his producers friends, who had taken over the distribution. It was a kind of a friend, Santi Datta, someone, and he accompanied Ray to
Venice.
Venice. They went to Rome and then from there went to Venice. And over there, I think that the good fortune of Satyajit Ray was that Penelope Houston,
Yes.
the lady who was the friend from 1950s in London. Lynn Sanderson, Penelope Houston, all these people were there. So she was one of the jury member, and she liked the film like anything. And she, in fact, pressed the chairman of the jury, Rene Claire, that you must give this. And and he agreed. And then he said one thing which I have quoted, that he said, not with a malice, it has been quoted by Andrew Robinson also, that please tell Ray, after he has got the award, how to make films. He should know how to make films. So this is very contradictory.
That's the second film.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Maybe there were that Ray himself said that there were some editing problems. In
Yes.
fact, he said about the music by Ravi Shankar.
Yeah.
Ravi Shankar was always in a hurry.
Okay.
So, there are so many gaps in the
Yes. Yes.
music also.
Yeah.
So, Ray had also said that, there was some
Yeah.
gaps in
The
the
second film
editing.
is still emerging kind of thing. But coming to
Exactly.
Aparajito, the setting was very classic. Benares, then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
deaths there and the families there, and
Right.
the village life. He coming to
Right.
Calcutta. It was very eventful. For,
Right.
uh,
Right. Yeah.
for a viewer even today. And coming to
Right. Yeah.
Apu's censor, uh, you know,
Mm.
it is like Apu being on his own, and also the first time Soumitra Chatterjee, as the lead actor in
Yeah.
Ray,
Yeah. Of
is
course.
there
Yeah.
for I
Yeah.
am told by Samita that Soumitra was actually a budding poet those days, and he was not very keen on acting. It was Ray who pushed him to acting and be his protagonist in his films. It stuck. It's like Bergman and Max von Sydow. Because
Hmm.
it's like the alter ego of the filmmaker. Somebody gets into that slot. It's very
Right.
difficult for the filmmaker and the actor to get away from it. So and
Yeah. Yeah.
Apu Sansar is that way shows the maturing of Ray, is it not?
Of course, there's no doubt about it. And I should say that, in fact, I have mentioned here that Soumitra Chatterjee, he went for that Apu and Aparajita when they were looking for, bigger Apu.
Yeah.
So Soumitra went, but then Ray found that he was, too big for that Apu, adolescent Apu.
Okay.
College going Apu. So he was not selected. But he had in his head, this man had come, this boy had come, and he had, perhaps he had discussed with him so many things. So he had something in his mind. So when Apu Shankar he was making, he asked for, the same person, Nimai Datta or someone, who introduced Soumitra to him. So that please bring that boy again. So he came. And that was the beginning of what you said, the alter ego development. Uh, yeah,
Because the way these two have gone about after that, it is rare in film history that such thing.
right,
It's a rare combination and unique combinations, which was.
right,
So,
true,
and then another thing is, which you also wrote, is the international attention, the national
right,
attention, the Nehru's intervention into all this,
exactly,
and the
exactly,
commercial film was complaining
yeah,
that Ray is selling poverty abroad.
exactly.
How do you see that whole thing of that?
Actually, it was a formidable opposition. We should not today. When we read it, we do not understand. May sometimes underestimate. But when Nargis Dutt, she was the, queen of Indian cinema. She was telling that, and not only she, there were many MPs also who did not like this film,
Yeah,
Pathipachari, that,
yeah,
selling. So at that point of time, it was necessary, for a person like Nehru to have, to have his way. Otherwise, it would not have gone to Cannes Festival. In fact, Marie Seaton, he
yes,
will, it, that Marie Seaton, she in fact wrote to Nehru
yes,
because previously she was doing a biography of Nehru also.
yeah,
And Marie Seaton wrote to Nehru that you must see to it that this film is not, obstructed. Obstacles should not be put on its going abroad for,
yes.
for its showing in the international circuit.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the
In
international,
fact, very few people have understood the relevance of Marie Sasson in all these things, because
yeah,
she was brought in by Krishna Menon and Nehru to
uh,
evangelize on good
yeah,
films in India,
yeah,
and she became very close to Mrs. Gandhi,
Right.
and almost staying in Murthy house along with Nehru
Exactly.
and Mrs. Gandhi.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
so that gave her unfettered access to the prime minister as a
Exactly.
person and brief
Exactly.
him and flag him off on very many things. That is
Right.
very important. And Mary Satyan went on to write Ray's first biography, is it not?
Yeah. Actually, Mary Seton wrote a few biographies. Even Nehru's biography she had written, and the other biography was of Eisenstein.
Yeah.
She wrote a biography of Eisenstein, and then she decided in mid 60s that she would write a biography um,
Ray.
of Ray. Yeah. So that way, and previously, right from 1955 onwards, she was looking at the curve of, the rising curve of Ray.
Yes.
That here was a filmmaker who was really, can be compared with any good filmmaker anywhere in the world. So
Yes.
she was convinced about his brilliance,
Hmm.
his depth of knowledge,
Yeah.
his view about film. So the chemistry was
Very well.
very good. Yeah,
In your article, you mentioned about Flaherty, Robert Flaherty.
Flaherty. Yeah, yeah,
I remember she came with Nanook of the North of Flaherty to India to showcase what is a good film.
yeah,
And then she began to showcase Padher Panchali too.
yeah, yeah.
In fact, we talked about Professor Satish Bahadur as analyzing Padher Panchali.
Right.
That was his obsession in the
Yeah.
film institute as a
Right.
professor of film appreciation. And
Right.
again, Satish Bahadur was a founder, was picked up by Mary Satan and
Exactly.
put in Pune FTI
Over there. Yeah.
over there as
Mhm.
part of this developing new film culture. So it is
Right.
all a kind of I'll say activity of the times. That was a time,
Exactly.
yeah, which the
Yeah, a
system
beautiful,
wanted.
I would say, a beautiful coincidence.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
That is the thing. So Ray
Yeah.
become what he is. Like when
Exactly.
I was writing my book on the Film Society movement, I was
Yeah.
told that anything to do with Film Society, Ray was the president
Yeah.
all his lifetime,
Yeah.
although he was not very active in
Yeah.
that. But any any issue of Film Society, Mrs. Gandhi, as Information Minister and Prime Minister, used to tell the Film Society people, "Get me a letter from Manikda.
Exactly.
I will get it done." So
Exactly.
so that was a kind of patronage he
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
from system,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I think no other filmmaker got, and no other uh, cultural icon got that kind of
Right.
patronage
Yeah.
from Mrs. Gandhi as Prime Minister till her death.
True. True.
Yeah.
True.
Though I'm told that by Samhita and others that he never liked emergency and he refused to make a
Yeah. Yeah.
film
Of
on
course.
20th
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
20-point program and all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a way, I think Ray was a product of the times, and what made Ray as a big filmmaker was the Apu Trilogy, is it not?
Yeah. Of course. Absolutely. Even I would say that after, because I saw, while writing this again, I had to go through the beauty of going through his film, the aesthetic, of, I should say, experience of going through his films.
Yes.
And I think that Pathir Pacheli is unparalleled.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah. Yeah.
still now you can say that this is a milestone.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that way, Pathir Pacheli made Ray what
Yeah.
Ray became.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about that.
In fact, Ashok, that comes us to the conclusion of this. In fact, I
Right.
must conclude it by saying that I had the good fortune of seeing the reconstructed Apu Trilogy in last
Right.
December, that is
Right.
2019. And
Right.
all of us were really surprised. The digital reconstruction helped
Yeah.
us to see the black and white film with all the colors, because we'll forget
Exactly.
about colors,
True.
because
True.
the
True.
film is and the film has came out so lively.
It's true. True.
It is as good as the first show of of
Exactly.
1955, and
Exactly.
it is a the 3-day experience was such a such an illuminating experience. In
True.
fact, I remember Adur came in, Adur Gopalakrishnan was there, and he came out and said, that after seeing Father Panchali, saying that this is better than the original. That
Exactly.
is the
Yeah.
quality of the digital reconstruction.
True.
And it is available in the criterion.com, which is an American kind of online depository of good films.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that more people will see that in India soon,
Of course.
and more people will get to know the real Ray, not the one which we see in YouTube and others, which is I nobody can vouch for the quality on the YouTube copies and all. It is not an experience of its own. You won't get.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And thank you for Andy for this wonderful story behind and of the Apu Trilogy and the way Ray went about it. Very few people have gone into the depths of that. I think you had the privilege of looking at the materials in Bangla as well as English, internationally and nationally, and come out with such a illuminating article. And thank you very much, Ashok, and we'll continue this chat over many issues. Maybe we must have a session.
No,
Pradeep,
let me react.
Yeah,
React on what you have said.
Yes.
That it is basically your inspiration, that was instrumental, because you have been always, asking me, to delve into this over of Ray. We have been discussing it, over the last 6 months or 8 months, and various ways you have instigated this in me, that I, as a film, may I call myself film buff, that I should also do something, which can do justice to this centenary.
Yes.
So I thought that, and then I went, through the books, which were available with me, and I made a thorough study of those books. And then I thought that, once again, maybe after so many years, it is necessary to tell the story, how this came about.
Yes.
So basically,
everybody thinks that it is all happened just like that. It is not.
No.
Which
there are so many stages of its development.
Yes.
And I must thank you for this, in fact, originated with your instigation. So I must thank you for your role in it. And I'm happy that I have been able to send you something which you liked.
Yes, of course. Because this is Ray Centenary and we must contribute to the information and the perspectives on Ray as much as possible, so that the coming generations will remember him as good as the world of films remembers him. Thank you, Ashok, and that's how another chat on Kolkata Film Society soon with maybe Pradeep Dada.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.